Hello and welcome to the first tutorial of JSF with Spring and Hibernate. So to start, today we will create a project, a sample program who manage the students. So we start by creating a new dynamic web project, student manager. So this our target runtime is Tomcat. Finish. So we start by creating by defining our entity. So new class student on the package student model. Finish. So the class student represents our entity, so we design this by the entity annotation. Excuse me. We will import libraries to our project. So we make our library from Spring, Hibernate and JSF on the folder lib. So here we search our library. Here we have all libraries. So we have Spring libraries, Hibernate libraries, and JSF library. I make it all on the same folder. I select all libraries, I do copy and paste on the lib folder. So now I find my annotation entity and the annotation table, and here we make the name of our table on the database. The name of the table is student. So now we create our fields. The first field is the ID. So private int ID. The ID is our primary key. So we design this by the annotation ID. The ID will not be null, so we design this with the not null annotation. The second field is the first name, so private string first name. The first name is the column. The third field is the last name. So private string and the last field is the birth date. So private date, birth date, and it's equal. So now we will create the getters and setters. So source, generate getters and setters. We select all fields, select all, and OK. We will create a constructor too. So source, generate constructor using fields. And we will create a constructor without parameters. Public student. So now we are finished to create our entity. So now we will create the servers, our entity servers. So new interface student servers, and we make this on the package student servers. So here we define our methods. The first method is save, is add student, public void add student, and the second method is find all students or get all students, public list. This will return a list of students. Find all. So this method will return all students from the database. So now we will create a class who implements this interface. New class student servers implementation. Finish. And here our class implements the service interface, student interface, or student service. So now to add a student on the database, we need a database connection. And now, with annotation auto-wired, Spring will inject our database connection. Auto-wired private session factory session factory. So here Spring with the annotation auto-wired will inject a session factory on this class. And now to add a student, we do session factory get current session save. and this will save the student on the database. Now, to get the list of all students, we use our session factory, get current session dot create a query. And on our query, so it's from the table student dot list. So this will save all students on a list of students. So now we are finished to creating our student servers. So now we will create a bin manager. New class. Excuse me. Here on the student servers, we will indicate to Spring that this class is a student service. So we do this with the service annotation. Service annotation, and here we make the name of student service, and we will indicate to Spring that on this class we will use transactions. So we add the transactional annotation. And now we can create our bin manager. New class student bin, and we make this on the student bin. So now we will indicate to Spring that this class is a bin manager. So we do this with an annotation to managed bin, and the annotation scope now we create a method who get the list of all students. So we define a list first, private list of students, and here we define the getters and setters. But here, to get the list of all students, we will get this from a database. So here we need our student servers to get the list of all students. So here, with the annotation auto-wired, Spring will inject the student servers. Student servers, to save a student, we need a method who save a student. So it's public void save student. And here student service dot save dot add student. So now we are finished to create our, to define our entity, to create our servers, to create our bin manager, and now we can create our JSF page, Java server page. This page will show the list of all students on a table. So to do this, we make new XHTML page. List students. So to start, we create a basic form. And now data table. Now we will create our first column. So equal student value equal student bin dot, and now here on our student bin we have the method get list students. So we will use this method to get the list of all students. We call this method in our JSF page, get list students, and this will return the list of students. So here we define our first column, and we define our header text. The first column is the first name, so first name, and we close this. Our output text. The value of our output text is student dot first name, and we close this. And we do the same thing with the other columns. The second column is the last name, and the value is the value of the last name. And a third column is the birth date. Student dot birth date. So now we have finished to create our application, and we will now configure other Spring and our web application with XML files. So for Spring, we will create the application context. So new Spring Bean configuration file. We can use this. We name this application context .xml. Next, and here we select our namespaces. So we need the beans, our AOP context, and the transaction manager. Next, and finish. Now to start the first, we will define the Spring Beans on this configuration file. So the first thing to define is the data source. So bean ID equal data source, and class equal a combo pool data source. So now we will make our data source properties. So the first property is the driver class. And the value is all dot mysql dot driver. So the second property is the username. User is root, and password. Now we define the password is empty. For my database is empty. For you will make your database password. Now we will define the JDBC URL. For me it's define the session factory bin. ID equal session factory class or dot Spring framework dot or local session factory bin. So now we will define the properties of this session factory. So the first property is to affect a data source for this session factory. So property name equal data source and def equal data source. So here the ref equal data source, this will reference this bin. So this will affect this data source to our session factory. And then now we will define the package to scan. So name packages to scan, and the value we make the name of the package who contains our entities. So on our case, our entities are on the student.model package. So here we make student.model. Now we will define the Hibernate properties. So property name equal Hibernate properties. So the first property is the Hibernate dialect. Now we define the provider class. Property key equal Hibernate dot connection dot provider class, and here we make our provider class. Excuse me, connection provider. we are finished to define the Hibernate properties. Now we will define our transaction manager. So beginning ID equal transaction manager, and the class of our transaction manager is the Hibernate transaction manager. And here we will create the property. So property name equal session factory. So here we will affect this session factory to the transaction manager. Ref equal session factory. Context annotation. And now we add the context component scan. And here we make the package who contains all components that we like to scan with Spring. So on our case we make the package student. So now we are finished to configure our Spring. So we will configure now our web application, and to do this we will create the file, the configuration file web.xml. New XML file web.xml. So here we have the welcome list file index.html. So the first thing to define is the context parameters. The name is context config location, and here we define the value of our context file name. So it's class path application context .xml. Now the second thing to define is the listener. define the context request listener too. So and now we will define our servlet container. Faces servlet. So here we will use the Java server faces. So our servlet container will be the faces servlet. And now we define the servlet class. Faces servlet. Now we will define our servlet mapping. Servlet mapping. URL pattern JSF. So now we have finished our web application configuration. So we will configure now our Java server faces. And to do this, we will create a configuration file. So new XML file. And the name will be faces config. So our resolver will be the Spring resolver. So new So now we are finished to configure our faces, our Java server faces. So we close this. So now we are finished to configure our application, and we can execute it. So we are choosing to run this application on Tomcat server. We have an exception. So what's this exception? Is class not found exception. Request context listener. Yes. we have an error on the configuration file. So this context.request, and now it will work. Request context listener. So we will run the application, run on server, Tomcat server, finish. We have another exception, class not found, context loader listener. Yes. Anyway. Yes, here listener with E. We stop our server, and yes, so here we have some errors on the Spring configuration file. The first is here. Yes, Spring framework. It's correct now. And here transaction manager, Spring framework transaction. And here we will use the value attribute, value equal So now we have no errors on our configuration files, and we will try to execute our application. So here we have some errors, okay, some exceptions. So class not found, Spring mean faces OAL resolved. So this is on the faces config file. Yes, here it's L uppercase. Now it's correct. So we restart our server, stop, exception. It's class not found, dialect class not found, org.hibernate direct MySQL. So this is on the Spring configuration file. It's here. Yes, here Hibernate. So we stop our server. So the error is here. It's Hibernate and not Hibernate. Hibernate. And we run our application. So now we have no exceptions. List students .JSF. So the property get students not found on type student.views.student view. So the problem here is property get list students not found. Okay. So list students. Yes, here it's not get list students, it's just list students. And now it will work. We run the project. Yes, here we are depressing the limit time, so timeout. So here if the server don't start on 45 seconds, it will be stopped. So here we can, so we make 100. And then we will start the server. have the list of students on the database. So thanks for watching this tutorial, and if you find a problem, you can comment this video on YouTube. Thank you.